Happy New Year, everyone. So this is going to be my first video of 2026, and I'm actually going to do a little bit of a late recap for my favorite photos of 2025, so stay tuned for that. Top 25 photos of 2025 with a few honorable mentions mixed in there as well. We're going to kick this off with the honorable mentions of this video. I only chose 3 for honorable mentions, things that I, again, really like. Honorable mention number 1, we have this photo here. This photo was actually taken at Six Flags. Again, it's pretty special for me. I just really enjoy the colors. I like the composition of it. It's a little different than what I typically do, which I think is really what kind of draws me, right? The colors, the composition, and it's really just a fun time at Six Flags nonetheless. Honorable mention number 2 is going to be this photo from Oxnard. So this is off the coast of Western California. We went to the beach with a couple friends, and I specifically remember this photo because I actually had to kind of hike up onto the beach for what felt like about 20 minutes. I couldn't get too close to the structure, but I think it actually worked out perfectly for me. There were some endangered species habitat restoration going on near this photo, so obviously I didn't want to kind of step on that and ruin whatever it is that they were doing and be respectful of it. But I really enjoy this photo. Again, the factory or whatever it is that's off in the distance, I saw it from far away and I immediately charged towards it because I thought it was going to be an interesting photo, and lo and behold, it cracked the honorable mention list of 2025. Next photo, again, I thought was really good. It was very tough to choose the honorable mention photos, surprisingly. Obviously, the top 25 was even harder, but I really enjoyed this photo, and it really is, in my opinion, postcard worthy. I do think that if I put this photo on a postcard, it would actually look really nice. It'd be nice to kind of send to someone in the mail and have a nice photo to go along with it. This photo was taken in Yellowstone around the Norris Geyser Basin area, where there's a bunch of different geysers that were active. Again, I just really love this photo. The composition is really nice. The colors are very nice. I didn't have to do too much editing on it, and most of my shots are actually straight off the rip, right? They're straight off the camera, straight out of the scans. I don't really do too much editing, but overall, it looks really good, and it makes my honorable mention number 1. We cracked the honorable mentions, and we're going to move on to our next part, which is the top 25. So starting with number 25 is going to be this photo of Death Valley. So I really enjoyed this photo. I took this on my Nikon F2 on Kodak Gold, and I just really love the composition, right? It really speaks true to the desert as a whole, right? The vast open nature of it, the desert landscape, right? You think of it like a barren wasteland type of deal. And I think this photo kind of evokes that the best, right? I love the colors. I love the contrast in the asphalt, the lines, the different structures in terms of the foreground, the midground, and the background. I think it's just overall a very solid photo, right? Not amazing. I don't think it's top 10, but I do think it's one of my favorite photos of 2025. Now, next one, we got number 24. 24 is going to be in Yellowstone. This was another geyser area called the Artist Paint Pots, if you remember in my Yellowstone video. I really enjoyed this photo. I do love the composition, but most importantly, I love the colors associated with it, right? You have this greenish, yellow tint in the water that matches the grass with smoke coming out from the geysers in the back. And ultimately, I just think it's a really solid photo. Again, I don't think it's print worthy necessarily or portfolio worthy, but I do think it's just a solid shot that I really liked when I took it. I was very surprised with the results when I actually got it back from the film lab. Moving on to number 23. 23 is going to be a shot from Montana, where we were staying at our Airbnb when we were going to Yellowstone. I really enjoyed the shot. I actually took the shot the first day that we were there when I was burning my roll of Portra 400, the only roll that I brought on the trip. And again, I'm very ecstatic with how these results came out. The ranch or the house in the background, the clouds kind of opening up with a ray of light casting at an angle towards the house, and me able to capture it from that angle, I think is very special. I do think that one of the reasons why I kind of go back and forth with this being a top photo, like a top 15 versus like a top 25, is just a little blemish of the refraction on the lens, right smack in the middle of the photo. But I do think it also adds a little bit of character. So some days I feel like I really like it, but some days I feel like, I wish it didn't have that. But that's part of the photography, right? Part of the experience with film, and just making the most out of your shots. So I've learned to appreciate it as it came out like that. Moving on. It's a very simple photo compositionally. As far as what we're looking at, it's a really nice reflection of the pool of water, right? It really spoke to the calmness of just the entire trip, right? Everyone was having a great time. It was nice and calm, and it was a nice stop where we stopped, where you can hear the wind moving through the grass. You can see the grass moving and waving, and you go down from the road a little bit, and you find this pool with this nice magical reflection of the clouds, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I think it was just a very good start to the trip, and it really just takes me back to the peace and serenity that I felt when I was in Yellowstone. This cracks the 22nd spot in my top 25 for 2025. This one was a difficult one for me. I knew it was going to be included in my 2025 recap of photos. I just didn't know where exactly to put it. So I put it here. I think it's a fair enough placement for this photo. This photo of the bikes, and I think what really sticks out is just the reflection of the shine on the handlebars of the bikes, right? I took this photo. I strictly remember where I was. We're outside the Ansel Adams Photography Museum and Shop in Yosemite Valley, and I was just waiting for my fiance to finish up some shopping, and I was like, oh, let me just take some photos while I'm waiting, and I just decided to take a photo of this. And again, it holds a special place in my heart because a lot of my photos that I end up taking kind of just happen on a whim, right? I find myself in a situation, instead of just kind of sitting and being on my phone, I decided to kind of go out and take some photos, and this is the result of that, right? A really good photo, in my opinion. I love the shine. It adds a lot of like nostalgia to it. It has a particular feel to it that I can, again, put myself back. I can close my eyes and transport myself back into that situation and be in that happiness that I was when I was in that, on that trip, right? So a really solid photo. I love the colors, the oranges, the yellow of the bike, the greens in the background. I think overall it's a really nice composition. Moving on to our next one, we're gonna dip our toes into black and white photography. I've learned to very much love black and white photography as I've kind of grown as a photographer over these last 6 months. The reason I love this photo is strictly because of the waterfall, right? The contrasting colors between the trees, the whites, the shadows, but also it was enough where I was able to edit it where I can get the clouds in it as well. And I think that also just adds a big dimension to it, right? The clouds kind of overhanging the waterfall and the millions and millions and millions of gallons of water that pass through it. You can just sense how big it is, right? And I remember when I was taking this photo, just hearing the roaring crash of the waterfall hitting the rocks down below, and then realizing that there's actually a pathway. If you look at the photo, there's a pathway in the bottom left-hand side that you can actually walk up close towards it and experience that a little bit closer. So it's a solid photo in my opinion. This next photo, I have a lot to say about it, but I'll try to sum it up as quickly as possible. But this photo, I think, really is just exceptionally well done. I think the composition is simple, but I think it's different than what I'm typically taking, right? I have two subjects here. This is Justin and Carr, my brother-in-law and his wife. I really love this photo. I think compositionally it's very simple, but the simple fact of it is that it's objectively good. Having the monochromatic effect to it really adds a layer of, again, just like nostalgia, right? A feeling of like going back home or going back to a time where it was nice, like it was fun, things were happy, or times were happy, we were having fun, we were on the bikes, we were traveling through Yosemite on the bikes, and it just was a great time. I think that it captures a lot of things well in terms of like the subjects, right? There's a depth of field there that I think is really neat, where the subject on the right, Carlene, is very close and in focus, and then you have Justin taking a photo of me and her in the back a little bit, or in the midground, and then in the background you can see the blurred out trees, but it's enough where you can still see the details of the trees. This is a very special photo highlighting those points of the composition, which again, I really enjoy. All right, you guys, we're almost there. We're moving on to number 18. So 18 is gonna be this landscape shot in black and white of the Yosemite Valley. So this is the tunnel view. So as you kind of enter into Yosemite, you go through this long tunnel. And as it opens up into this nice valley with limited parking that you can get out and take some photos. And again, I think compositionally, this is a beautiful shot. This shot has been taken millions of times, but this was the first time I ever went to Yosemite, and this is the first time I ever saw the valley just kind of open up in front of me. So I think this is where it properly sits in my top 25, because it's a photo that I've seen online, I've seen photos of, but I've never actually seen it in person. So this was the first time I saw it. Now, I love it in black and white because, again, you're getting such contrasty feels, right? You can really see the shadows on the right side where the sun was kind of not hitting those areas, but then you see the nice white highlights on the left side where it's highlighting El Capitan, and then you can, very far in the distance, you can see Half Dome, and I think it's just of overall just beautiful landscape shot that I took, and I was very happy with this one. Number 17 is actually going to be El Capitan in color. So with this one, I specifically love this photo because I remember being in the valley, in this grassy area. We're having a picnic. We were enjoying our time there. This was our first day in the park. We decided to have a little picnic. It was cold. It was refreshing. It was nice. And just looking up at El Capitan, you can really understand why it's called that. It is tremendous, the size of this thing, to the point where you look up at it and it hurts your neck because you don't typically look up like that in normal day-to-day life anymore. I really love this photo because, again, compositionally, it's simple, but you get the contrasting colors of shadows and highlights right from the get-go. But you get to see the foreground in front of you that really frames it very well with the trees that kind of surround it. And then you get the sky at the top with the nice color blue of the sky. So I think it adds a lot of color to it, a lot of richness to it that I really enjoy. This is going to be the last photo before we crack into the top 15. And for this photo, I decided to choose another black and white photo of that same day when we were in the Yosemite Valley for the first time having our picnic. And I remember seeing the light. It was this golden hue that was, bleeding through the trees. And I just remember looking and I saw this shot and I was like, oh my God, the way the light's hitting these trees, but not the ones behind it and not the ones in front of it, I think is what really captured my eye and really motivated me to capture this shot. So with this shot, it's exactly that, right? You see the light in the right side of the photo. You can see it kind of piercing through those trees, and it really highlights the center of the subject, which is the 3 trees or so in the light, in the highlights. But then you see the dark background of the pine trees behind it, which is, like, to me, I thought was fantastic. I thought this was such a just like right time, right place for me to take that photo, and it came out spectacular in my opinion. So if you guys are enjoying this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys have any other photos that you think should have cracked the top 25 or top 15, leave a comment. Show me, tell me which video it was that you saw it in, or which place I went to that you saw it in. We can have that discussion. Top 15, I think this was a really easy one to hit at the top 15 mark. Sitting at number 15, it's this reflection shot. This was actually our last day in Yosemite Park. Again, I think kind of adds a little bit to it, a little bit of the nostalgia for me. This was shot on Portra 800, and I found that Portra 800 is actually one of my favorite film stocks once I saw the results of this photo. The turquoise colors of the reflection and the sky, I have not taken a photo on film that comes anywhere close in terms of color reproduction from this photo, right? The turquoise itself is such a nice, rich color that I love it. But you can also see the calm river, right? It's not moving fast. I think it was a perfect kind of summation of the trip. Again, I just really love the photo, but what really speaks out to me on this one specifically is the colors. 14 is an interesting one. There's a lot of debate on this one on my end, but I had to go with this sequoia tree. I didn't show any of these photos on any of my videos when I went to Sequoia National Park. This was actually on our way out of Yosemite. As we were driving down back to LA, we decided to take a little pit stop into the Sequoia National Forest and see General Sherman once again. This is actually a very famous spot to take photos in that general area, and I think this photo is just really nice. I love the texture of the bark. I love the colors. It really gives life to these trees that are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, that have survived countless, wildfires and things like that, lasted this long. I think it's a good way to kind of represent the timekeeping nature of photography, but also these trees and that synonymous relationship that they have. I think is just very special to me. My one drawback to this photo is that the background behind it is a little overexposed, and I couldn't really save it too much in post, which is why I think it sits at 14 as opposed to being maybe a top 10 or even a top 5 for me. So we're moving to number 13. Number 13 is going to be this photo right here. Again, I think compositionally it's fantastic. I think when I was looking at it through the view, I didn't expect it to be this good, but I was very heavily surprised at how well it turned out. This photo actually was taken on the new Kodacolor when it first released. I'm not quite sure which one. I have to look at my records. It was either Kodacolor 100 or 200, obviously. But I was kind of experimenting with the film, and this is the photo that came out, and I was very happy with it. I think the angle that I was shooting it at really lends to just how big this, mountain cliffside is. But then you get the foreground all around it, and I think it adds a border within the frame, right? It adds kind of this like circular border that you really focus in on this, subject matter in the center, and it just looks tremendous. It looks huge. I think, again, one of the other reasons why I love it is just the contrast between the white and blue sky with the dark greens down below, and then you get this perfect medium in between with the gray and the dark shadows of the mountain. Number 12 is going to be another shot of the sequoia trees. This is actually the same pair of sequoia trees from our earlier photo, but again, I think what really changes the game for me is the angle at which I took it. I was standing obviously very close to the base of the trunk and just kind of angled my camera upwards and took this photo, and I think it's a perfect representation of this photo, right? Like, you see how tall these trees are. You can see how beautiful the textures are with the light kind of reflecting off the tree. You get the nice, rich, saturated red colors. And it just makes for a very beautiful photo overall. And I think this one ranks a little bit higher than the other one because it's not as overexposed in the background as the other one, right? You can see the blues mixed in with the whites where the light source is coming from. But most importantly, you just see the textures of the trees, and it just sticks out like phenomenally. So I think this one, the reason it is in the top 15 is the texture, the angle, which kind of lends to a little bit more of the creative eye that I've been slowly building and improving upon as a photographer. And it just shows my growth with it to make a somewhat boring shot into an interesting shot, right? I'm essentially just taking a photo of a tree, but the angle and the colors and the angle of the sun and the light really make it a prettier shot compositionally, right? So I really enjoyed that. Next shot, we're actually going to move into the latest national park that I went to, which was Death Valley. Now, this one I think is just beautiful. I think this was the shot that made me realize how just great standing in the middle of the road is and taking a photo. Because it's, again, the composition is just so simple, but the symmetry of it, I think, is just what blows my mind with it. So you have the center lines of the road in the middle, you have the leading lines kind of converging off from the side, and then you have the nice white, barren desert landscape, and then you have this rich, contrasty red and blue in the distance that I think just adds an element of just beauty to it. Again, compositionally, it's very simple, but I think it's very effective at showing what it is intending to show, right? We are making it into the top 10 now. This is where it's gonna get a little interesting, a little spicy, and maybe a little controversial, but we're gonna start with my top 10, or my 10th favorite of the year, which is this photo of El Capitan. So this photo is essentially an exact replica of the other photo in color, but I do think that the black and white just dramatizes it way more. Getting the contrast, these shadows and highlights, but it's so much more stark in terms of the difference, and it literally looks like El Capitan has two faces, right? It has the shadow face and it has the face that's towards the light. And I think ultimately it's just beautiful. I think the details in the trees, because of the contrast, is way better than the one in color. And I highly prefer that. Personally, I love high contrast, very saturated, punchy colors, and things that just like pop out at you. Again, I think that this photo is just magnificent. It just shows the size and beauty and just the elegance of El Capitan. Moving on to number 9, we're actually gonna travel back in time and we're gonna go to the Grand Teton. So with this photo, I love this landscape shot of the Tetons in color. I believe this was on Portra 400 if I'm not mistaken, but this one was really nice, right? I just strictly remember waking up at 4 in the morning and driving 4 hours to get to the Tetons, traveling through Yellowstone, you know, having little to no sleep, but just being so excited to be on the road and be on the move that it made this shot way more impactful when I took it. Colors, immaculate. I think compositionally, it's beautiful. The mountain in the center of the photo really adds to the size. And again, it's just like, it's one of the most beautiful mountain ranges you can ever see in your life. So if you guys ever get a chance to see the Tetons, this photo means so much more once you realize you see it in person. It is just magnificent, right? We had the morning light behind us, and it added so much dimension and just detail to the shot that I just really love. Next one is gonna be the same shot of the Grand Tetons, just in black and white. And again, I think black and white is very special for me because all the things I just listed for the previous photo, it carries over into this photo, but just ×2, right? You really, I mean, I edited this photo to be a panoramic style photo, so we're kind of getting the top and bottom of the photo and shrinking it down and making it wider. And I think this adds a better viewpoint of how majestic this mountain range is. And being able to relive it every time I see this photo, I just remember being in that parking lot at 8 in the morning. Everyone's tired, everyone's kind of shaking their legs, they're waking up from their naps because they were sleeping on the road, and I was driving the entire time. And to be rewarded with a shot like this was something that, again, there's no way to describe it unless you actually do it how I did it, right? Obviously it's different for everyone, but that's just what it means to me, and this is why I love it. Sitting at number 7 is this photo. I specifically remember this photo. We were caught out in a storm trying to see one of the Grand Prismatic Geyser in Yellowstone, and I think this photo just compositionally is very beautiful, right? Swirling clouds up top that really indicate that there's a storm coming. There's a rainstorm and potentially thunderstorms. You have the geyser off to the left that's spewing steam because of the cold air and because of the storm that's coming. You have this river that's rushing through. What really stuck out to me was the family of ducks in the background. Really shows a moment of peace for me whenever I look at this photo. You have this family of ducks just kind of sitting there with the storm kind of coming. And when you know the context of this photo, at least it is for me, it really tells the story of something that is very meaningful for me. So we're gonna have number 6 here. We're gonna go back to Death Valley. We're at the Mesquite Sand Dunes, and this photo I absolutely adore. I think this trip was the trip where I really started to love the desert landscapes. I really started to understand the desert landscapes and the beauty that comes with it, and ultimately like why people would want to live in a desert is because of things like this. You have these nice rolling hills, the texture of the sand. You have all these desert plants kind of growing out. Ultimately, in the distance, you have this nice, beautiful sand dune. But I think the best part about this photo is the details. When you really start to zoom in, you can actually see people in the distance, way out far in the distance, and they look like ants. And I think, again, it just shows the size of this place. It shows the size of these sand dunes. but also the lengths at which people are willing to travel in the sand to take nice photos of the sand dunes. Number 5, going to be another black and white shot. This is going to be a shot of Half Dome. Compositionally, I think this shot is excellent. I think, again, the shadows, the highlights, the heavy contrast between the two, but you can also see the contrast between the foreground and the background, which is of Half Dome. But I think it's interesting because we have this other subject involved, right? This subject actually happens to be someone that I know, and it just was like perfect timing. I think also the way that she's standing is a little obscure, like it's different than just staring at Half Dome. It almost looks like she's not even staring at Half Dome. She's looking at something different, which I think adds an element of something that's unique to the photo, right? Compositionally. I do think that the Half Dome itself is always going to be beautiful, no matter how, like what kind of photo you take of it. But I think in this sense, comparing the size of the person to Half Dome, it really shows just like how huge it is. And when you look at Half Dome from this angle and you see this photo, to me at least, you really like respect it. Like it's really weird, but you respect something because it's just this towering mound of rock that's protruding from the earth, and it's just for all eyes to see, right? It's like trying to reach out towards the sun. And I think that's something that I really enjoyed about Half Dome, that I thought was very beautiful. And I think the comparison between that, the person in the foreground, I think really adds that element of just like, you know, holy to it, that I think was really cool. I think number 4 is a little of an impromptu pick here. This was one of the last photos that I took of 2025, and I didn't make a video about it, but I did take this photo when I was out camping in Bass Lake for Justin, my brother-in-law, his birthday trip, where we went camping. And this was the next campsite over from where we were staying, and I think this photo is just so simple but yet so lovely. I think it's a perfect representation of fall. You have the fall colors of the trees, you know, the yellows and browns kind of coming down, but you still have these nice rich greens, plants to the side. But I think this special element here is that empty picnic table, and the lighting of it just looks very nostalgic, right? It looks like you can look at this photo and it's like I can put myself in that position. Like, to me, it looks like a fairy tale. It looks like a fairy tale photo with the lighting, the fall colors mixed with the greens and the leaves on the floor and the texture of it all. I think it's such a beautiful photo that it cracks the top 5 for me. Top 3. I think this is where it got really hard for me. I made a few audibles as I was making this video, but top 3, the third one has to be this photo of Half Dome. For all the reasons that I said before, I think the size of Half Dome, it really is something that you look at it and it just commands respect. It is just something you look at and you can't help just look at it and wonder for hours and just be like, oh my God, like this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. And I recognize why people love Yosemite now. Like, when I made that Yosemite video, I admitted that I've never been there. I've never seen these things before, but I've lived here my whole life. And then finally being able to see these things, it's like I understand why people from all over the world travel to this place to see this thing, right? It's just a rock. It's just a rock, but it is a beautiful freaking rock, if that makes any sense. But I think if you look a little deeper compositionally, you can look at the trees in the foreground. And again, you look at these trees, and these are not small trees. These are huge, 50, 60, 80-foot trees, but they just look like nothing compared to this rock, right? And then you see the nice, beautiful sky with the clouds surrounding it, and it just looks like everything is centered around this rock. And I think that is the perfect encapsulation of what Half Dome is, right? It's literally the flagpole of Yosemite, in my opinion. Like, the reason people go there is to see Half Dome. And I think this is a perfect photo to really encapsulate that same feeling. It really evokes those same feelings in me when I look at this photo. Number 2, I think number 2 compositionally is a fantastic shot, but I think for me it is more of a nostalgic feel for it, which is why I chose it for number 2. It's simply just a rundown gas station. It's an old Texaco out in Tennessee when I was out visiting my pops for the first time in over a year, it felt like, or 6+ months. And I think this photo just is very beautiful. There's a lot of elements here, right? We have this neon sign that kind of sticks out. You have the old Texaco sign that sticks out. You have these bikes off to the right. You have this old rundown car to the left. You have this nice, funny, unique looking cow up on top of the roof for whatever reason. But if you put it together, the photo just works. Every little element just speaks to a different way of life that you cannot really see anywhere else, right? This is in the South in America, and I have never seen anything like this other than where I was when I took this photo, right? You have this nice rainforest feel with all these trees around it. There's a nice river that runs through it, and then it was at sunset where you get these nice colors in the sky that just pop and really add an element of just beauty to this photo. I think for this photo, it is so simple, but there's so many other just elements in the composition that just speak to me in a way that, just kind of hits home. It reminds me a lot of my dad, and I don't obviously get to see him a lot, so I think this photo is just like a perfect representation of, I can look at this photo and put myself back when I did see him in Tennessee, and where he lives now, and put myself back in those shoes and be like, I'm with my dad, like I haven't seen him. So let me look at this photo and let me kind of get transported back in time to those moments. And I think that that's really why it speaks out to me a lot. So moving on to my top photo of the year. This photo is very special to me. So much so that my fiance over here that just walked in got it printed for me for Christmas. And I think compositionally, this is the best photo I've ever taken. Are you gonna bring it over here? I mean, I was going to show it on the video anyways, but I think compositionally, this is the best photo that I've ever taken. You could bring it up on, there you go, all the way up, there you go. There you go. All right, perfect. Thank you so much. This photo is great for a whole host of reasons. I specifically can look at this photo, and it's one of those photos, I don't know if you guys have ever been out camping or hiking, and you look at something so big where it looks like it's moving towards you, and like kind of really shakes out your eyes a bit, and like your vision kind of gets a little wonky because it's just like moving in and out of frame because of just how tremendous the size is. This is the same feeling I get looking at this photo. And the last time I felt something this way was when I was in Mount Rainier for my birthday a few years ago, and I was looking at the mountain, and the mountain was so big that it literally looked like it was coming in and out of frame, and my eyes just couldn't adjust to it. It was a very odd feeling. And every time I look at this photo, it just looks like, it looks like a photo that's not even from this time. It looks like it's from the 80s or something, or the 90s. And you have these people on these retro looking bikes cruising down the lane. And because of the lighting, I think that there's a lot of contrasty pieces to it on the actual rock itself, of Half Dome itself. I think you can see the details in the rocks, which I think is fantastic. You can see the details in the trees. You can see light kind of poking through it as well. But I think the subject matter in the foreground with all the people riding the bikes is probably the best part of this photo. Again, I think on an emotional level, it speaks to me because, again, it puts me back into a time where I can look at this photo and I can put myself in the exact position of where I was when I was taking this photo. I can feel the air around me. I can see everything around me, and I can take the photo and I can just remember this like 10 seconds of my life that when I look back on it, it really reminds me of the entire trip and all the beautiful photos that I took from that trip. I think this is the best photo that I've ever taken so far in my short 6-month career as a film photographer, and I think this is one of the best photos I've ever taken. So much so that my fiance got it printed for me, and now it sits above our dining room table. So that's it. That's it for 2025. That's my top 25 photos of 2025. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this, making this video. As far as plans for the future, we have a few trips planned out for this year, and showing different parts of the world, not just national parks. So I think that's going to be a big change as far as what we're doing. Not so much domestic travel, but a lot of international travel that's going to be happening this year, and going to be making the most of it. Yeah, without further ado, stay tuned for those videos, you guys. Again, I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far into the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps me out. It costs you guys nothing, and it really, you know, supports the channel. So I really appreciate it. Cheers to 2026. Let's make it a great year. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Bye.